Hello, yes. Hi, hello, I'm here to answer questions on my 2025 form. Yes, you over there.
You stink.
That's not a question, that's a statement, a very hurtful one. Please, security, escort him. Yes, you over there.
Are you happy with your form?
I'm not impressed. I'm not happy about my form for 2025, but I just got to knuckle down this weekend and present the best tips that I possibly can. So, look, I'm really hoping, and we're going to do everything I can. I got to do everything I can to make sure that it's a much better tipping round by the end of this weekend. Yes, you. Thank you.
Has this just become too hard for you?
It is the hardest season to tip in the NRL since I've started in 2021. That's 100%. That's 100%. Yes, you.
Keep the glasses on, pal.
Again, that's not a question. That's more of a statement. Please, security, can you get that one? You know what? I don't think you're all taking it seriously. So, look, all I can say is that this weekend it's going to be a much better effort in the tipping department, and I just got to knuckle down and carry out the best game plan that I can. So please excuse me. I'm just going to go work on that right now. Thank you very much. Thank you. No more. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Howdy, welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Women in League round will go down as one of the all-time weekends of rugby league. Oh man, what a fantastic round that was. As I said at the end of one of the streams that I did with Dor from the All Out Club, just tell the players that it's Women in League round every single friggin' round. But without further ado, let's get into this weekend. And it's not a themed weekend, but this is the last weekend where players get to put their best foot forward in order to receive a chance to get selected for State of Origin. This is a big weekend for players to put their foot forward to be selected in State of Origin. So let's get stuck into round number 11. Round number 11 starts on Friday night with 2 games, and match number 1 to kick off round number 11 emanates from McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. The Knights host the Parramatta Eels, and the Knights are coming into the game as favourites, $1.62. The Parramatta Eels are $2.31. That is pretty decent old value on the Parramatta Eels. That's not how I would have done it. I at least would have made it $1.90 each way, just quietly. That's massive value on the Parramatta Eels. So let's go into the team list, because there have been changes for both sides, some critical ones at that as well. So Fletcher Hunt will be starting on the wing for Greg Marzu, who did a knee injury, and he's going to be out for at least a month. The halves pairing remains as Fletcher Sharp and Jack Cogger. The forward pack, Jacob Saifidi and Tyson Frizzell. Leo Thompson, who returned with a bang last weekend, or the week before. He had a very good game last weekend, Leo Thompson did, at least in the first half. He's out due to a concussion, and Phoenix Crossland is the starting hooker. The back row for the Knights is Lucas, Kai Pearce-Paul and Adam Elliott. The interchange reads Jaden Brayley, Matt Croker, Kant and Brodie Jones. Now for the Parramatta Eels we've got Zach Lomax returning to the Sting for the Eels this weekend, and besides that, that's pretty much the only change for the Parramatta Eels. The forward pack, Williams, Smith and Polo, Dury, Kartoga and Hopgood as the back row. In the interchanges, Walker, Moretti, Sam Rani and Tony Mataele in jersey number 17. And might I say that Jordan Sam Rani, for a young fella, you can stick him on the wing, centre, or now even as second row. I really like the cut of this man's jib. He's just got to knuckle down, doesn't he, and try to, just sport the bruises and become a little bit tougher. But I really like what Jordan Sam Rani is all about, actually. I like that Jason Riles is believing in this young man, because I'm starting to believe in him too. Now, the twist to all of this, the big key to all of it is this is Dane Gagai's 300th game. I think that makes him maybe player number 50. It's close to being player number 50 for playing 300 games in the NRL, and Dane Gagai has been an excellent warhorse. He has gotten better and better as the years have worn on. Yes, there have been a couple of seasons there where he wasn't in his greatest form, but then he popped on a Queensland jersey, and then not just his Queensland form, but just his NRL form would just maintain at a high level. So yeah, Dan Gagai is definitely an NRL legend for sure. He's been fantastic throughout his career. So does that mean that the Knights are going to get up for him? Of course they will, but will it produce the goods? Well, with Zach Lomax coming back into the fold, it provides another dimension, that final piece of dimension to the Parramatta Eels attack. Also defensively, I think that bolsters them up just a little bit more. Plus, Zach Lomax has one opportunity to impress Laurie Daly, the New South Wales coach, to say to him, well, you're going to be selected on the wing. And Zach Lomax may already friggin' know. We don't know, but this will be Zach Lomax's final hit out before Origin teams are selected, at least New South Wales case, this Sunday. The last time these two sides met, it was one of the better games of the season, in my opinion, and it emanated from Newcastle. The Knights winning a high-scoring affair, 34-26, I think the final score was in the end. A completely different set of circumstances, especially the Parramatta Eels. They're definitely new. It's not a spoon bowl, is it? But it's a bottom four battle. It feels like a trap game. It feels like a trap game where I want to lean towards Parramatta. I really do. The Knights, I gave the benefit of the doubt to, though, last weekend against the Gold Coast Titans, and I had that feeling. I had that feeling about the Titans last weekend, if you remember. The value is there. Zach Lomax returns. Mitch Moses had his poor game last weekend against the Dolphins, and I think he'd be coming into this game with another chance to impress Laurie Daly, that he should be there. I'm just wobbling my jaw at the moment, aren't I? Damn it. I'm going to tip the Parramatta Eels in this game. I am. I thought it was, despite their errors last weekend, I thought it was a good quality game of footy. The game against the Gold Coast Titans for the Newcastle Knights was poor. Like, they were good for the first 30 minutes, and it went south very quickly for the Newcastle Knights. Now, could they put in back-to-back performances like that? They could. Dunno. It's Dan Gagai's 300th, so they friggin' wouldn't wanna. This is a hard game to tip. I'm going to tip the Parramatta Eels simply based off of Zach Lomax coming back into the fold, and that Mitch Moses as well got his poor game of 2025 out of the way. But it's not going to be easy. This will be Parramatta Eels victory, 1-12. The second game on Friday night is from Accor Stadium. The Bulldogs host the Sydney Roosters. The Dogs are $1.37. The Roosters are $3.11. Going into the team list news now, and Jamin Salmon, unfortunately for the Dogs, is out. Therefore, Kurt Mann will start at lock. Kick out, and Harry Hayes will start in the second row. So Harry Hayes, he was a winger a couple of years ago. He's been playing in the front row for the past 18 months, and now he's going to be playing in a second row spot. So well done to him, man, and he is a good, solid player. Kind of surprised he's playing because I think he went off with a Category 2 last weekend. But anyway, he's good to play. The rest of the Dogs interchange reads Hayward, Morin, Hopoy, and Luke Smith. And if you saw the photo of Luke Smith on the official fan of the Bulldogs page on Instagram, that dude is rippling. He is absolutely rippling like water, bro. Like, holy shit. The team list news for the Sydney Roosters, the back line is unchanged. The forward pack, Lenu, White and Watson is the starting front row. The back row is Crichton, Wong and Radley. The interchange is Zach Docker-Clay, Butcher, Steep and Lindsay Collins returns and comes off the bench in jersey number 17. Dominic Young has been named on the reserves as well. And that's just about all she wrote there for the team list news. Bulldogs, they are making me a believer more and more every single week. They were fantastic against the Canberra Raiders, come back in that second half and win the way that they did. And the Sydney Roosters are in form. I said as much. I Didn't think it'd go the way it's gone down, but I said before a ball was kicked that I think the Sydney Roosters are going to have a slow start, but somewhere, somehow, some way, they're going to work their way closer and closer into form and closer towards that top 8. Didn't have them in my top 8 in my latter predictions, but they are working their way into the season nicely, and they could be crescending just as Sam Walker comes back into the fold. I think that is about a month away, maybe less than that for Sam Walker. So the Roosters, they're not going to be easy. Again, they are in form. They're coming off of the bye, though, so they might start slow in this game against the Bulldogs, but they can't, though, because the Dogs will snap them up 100%. I think this game will be a lot closer than what the odds have got them at. The Roosters being at $3.11. But based off of the form of the Bulldogs and the way that they can turn on the attack, it was graphic, wasn't it? Like with 10 minutes to go in that first half, the Bulldogs went, right, we're in a little bit of trouble here. We need to go to Mark 4. And Mark 4, they friggin' went, man. So they were still down at halftime. They were scoreless at halftime. But you saw it. You saw them switch on, and you saw the Raiders backtrack a little bit. And then they continued on in that second half, and damn. So I'm going to go the Bulldogs to win a close one, I reckon, 1-12. And also me and Dan and I, Dan from Rugby League Outlaws, will be joining me for the first time to commentate on the Bulldogs and Roosters game this Friday night. Bulldogs 1-12 for me. Super Saturday, there are 3 contests, and match number 1 is from Suncorp Stadium at 3 o'clock. The Dolphins versus the Warriors. The Dolphins are $2 outsiders. The Warriors, they are $1.84 favourites. The team list changes here. Kurt Donohoe remains at hooker, despite Jerry Marshall-King. No, he's not even been named on the reserve. So Marshall-King is still out with that laceration to the thigh. We've also got Kenny Bromwich Jr. too by Max Fingo. So it's the same 17 that defeated the Parramatta Eels last weekend for the Dolphins. Now going into the Warriors team lineup, there are changes abound. There are changes potentially as well, but we'll go through it all now. So CNK, DWZ, and Tauapiki, the back 3 for now. The centres, Adam Pompey and Kurt Capewell in the centres. The halves pairing remains CHT and Metcalf. The forward pack is, James Fisher-Harris is returning this weekend for the Wires. I wasn't expecting that. Didn't know when he was coming back, but there he is. Wade Egan and Mitch Barnett. Halasima, Niukure and Clark, the back row. The interchange is Martin, Laban, Vaimalga and Samuel Healy. Please note that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has once again been named on the reserves, and when you look at Kurt Capewell named in the centres, surely something can be done about that. That we might move maybe Kurt Capewell back to a starting second row spot, pushing Niukure back to the bench, maybe potentially Samuel Healy drops out or Tamari Martin, and then Roger Tuivasa-Sheck comes into play centre this Saturday against the Dolphins. That is all of a sudden a much more star-studded New Zealand Warriors outfit, despite the fact that Jackson Ford and Bunty Afoa are out with concussions, with injuries. Wowee. No wonder that they're favourites. I was impressed with the Dolphins' performance last weekend, even though it was still close despite the Parramatta Eels errors. I thought the Dolphins just looked a little bit more calm and controlled and very, very positive in not an overly cocky way against the Parramatta Eels. So kudos to the Dolphins. They're definitely a plucky team and one that shouldn't be underestimated. The Warriors last weekend against the Dragons were very scrappy in victory, weren't they? Very, very scrappy. But it is a graveyard for them. That place down at Wollongong, notoriously a bad place for them to play. But Suncorp hasn't been too bad to the Warriors in recent times. I think it's like a 50% record over the past 7 games or so, and they defeated the North Queensland Cowboys just a fortnight ago at Magic Round, so they've got some confidence playing at Suncorp. The Dolphins, they do too. They defeated the Melbourne Storm, but then they went down to the Sydney Roosters a fortnight ago at Magic Round, so the last time these two sides played at Suncorp, it turned into a golden point thriller where the Dolphins did defeat the Warriors by just that 1 point. Or maybe it was 2 points by Cody. No, it wasn't Cody Nicarima. It was Sean O'Sullivan that scored the 2-point conversion, I think it was. or the inclusion of James Fisher-Harris I wasn't anticipating. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I think, will 100% come in. I really do think he will come in this weekend. But I think this will be a belter. This could be a real good belter. I wish I was going, but I'm working. But I'm going to tip the Warriors in this game. I don't think I was going to. I really don't think I was going to tip the Warriors before I saw the team list, but I'm going to back the Wires, who have been on the road now away from Mount Smart Stadium for, now 3 weeks in a row now. So if they can, get this last victory on the road before they return next weekend to Go Media Stadium, that's huge. That's going to be absolutely enormous. Now, that does scare me now that I've said that out loud, that they haven't lost on the road just quite yet. I'm still going to tip the Warriors just 1-12. The second game on Super Saturday is looming as an underrated contest, in my opinion. The Cowboys versus the Sea Eagles, and the Cowboys are coming into the game as $1.65 favourites. Manly are $2.26. There are team list changes. Now, just a reminder, even though I don't want to think about it, the last time these two sides met was back at Four Pines Park, and Manly Sea Eagles absolutely ran riot over the North Queensland Cowboys. It was something like a 46 points to 12 sort of victory or maybe it was 42 to 12. But in any event, Cowboys got smashed by the Manly Sea Eagles. So let's go into the team list first for the North Queensland side. Drinkwater, Derby, and Murray Taulagi are the back three. Zach Laybutt, welcome back to first grade, young man, and Viliami Vailea are the centres. Jackson Purdue is the 5'8" this Saturday. Jake Clifford has been dropped. That pushes Tom Dearden into the half-back slot. The forward pack now is McLean, Robson and Hess. Bateman, Nene and McIntyre, Cotter and Taumalolo are still out due to suspension and injury respectively. And the interchange is Edwards, McKaylee, Neem and Kai O'Donnell, with Jake Clifford and Tom Duffy interestingly named as 18th and 19th man for the Cowboys. For the Manly Sea Eagles now, the back seven, or the 1 to 7 is unchanged. The forward pack, Bullymore, Tavanga and Takayaho. Olakawatu and the Trebojevic brothers are the back row. In the interchange, this reads Simpkin, Waddell, Navale and Nathan Brown. Matt Lodge has also been named in jersey number 22 there for the Manly Sea Eagles. I am impressed with the spirit that they play with, the Cowboys, but they still conceded 30 points. But Penrith scored a try from a kick. They scored another try from a kick, and then they scored a third try from a very lucky error that came from Robert Derby, and I think it was the Blaze Taulagi try as well. So if you take out the kicks of play and the kicks for a try in play, and then if you take away that lucky error that the Panthers got from Robert Derby in then scoring a try, they didn't quite create a hell of a lot, and they still played at a pretty good level quality of footy. So the Cowboys, I think, defensively did pretty well, and I think that they can handle the Manly Sea Eagles as well. Probably not as effectively, because there's still two things that scare the absolute crap out of me with the Manly Sea Eagles, is that our defense from teams that are attacking our try line and then they're putting in kicks, that has been a problem for the North Queensland Cowboys for about 2 or 3 seasons now. That part of our defense is not good. And when you've got Talatau Kola potentially, or Jason Saab sprinting in the backfield on the outside off of a DCE grubber kick, that scares the tripe out of me. But also Tom Trbojevic, it's going to be mentioned, I know, and I know I'm mentioning it now and I don't want to, but you remember that try he scored that day in 2021, the final game of the home and away regular season, where Manly came up and made mince meat out of the North Queensland Cowboys. That'll be brought up. My point there is that Manly don't fear Queensland Country Bank Stadium. I think they've won, maybe in their 4 games, they've won 3, or maybe they're undefeated at QCB Stadium. But in any event, Manly, they don't mind playing at QCB Stadium. They even won there last year in Golden Point, and won thanks to a DCE field goal as well. So the speed on the edges and the potential kicking game of DCE scares the daylights out of me. And I still back Robert Derby. I've backed him in, and I've anticipated that sort of a performance from Robert Derby for a little while now, even though it happened in the trials. But yeah, no, I still back Robert Derby as one of our starting wingers. Forevermore sort of thing. So of course I'm going to back the North Queensland Cowboys. They should have gotten, and they will get, a lot of confidence from defeating the Penrith Panthers. And no, they didn't defeat them, I apologise. Drew with the Penrith Panthers last weekend in a high quality affair. I think they can snag a victory against the Manly Seagulls, whose defence at times was very, very flimsy. That final 15 minutes against the Sharkies was very bad from the Seagulls. But yes, I'm going to tip the North Queensland Cowboys to win a thriller and get some vengeance from their round 1 performance, 1-12 for the North Queensland Cowboys. Yeehaw! And the main event on Saturday is the main event for the entire weekend. The game of the round, Cronulla Sutherland Sharks versus the Melbourne Storm from Shark Park. Cronulla, they are $2.31. The Storm are $1.62. And believe it or not, this will be the first time in at least 6 weeks that the Sharkies will have played at Shark Park. They've been to Perth, they've been to Brisbane, they've been to Manly. They have been on every corner of the compass, have the Sharks, and I think they've only got one loss next to their name, and that was to the Tigers at Leichhardt. For the Melbourne Storm, they lost in Magic Round, and then they came back and absolutely electrified the West Tigers 64-0 last weekend down at Amy Park. Is this a rivalry? I don't quite think I can go that far, but I have been watching old highlights from Shark Storm games since 2016 through till now, and there's still some bad blood there, like 100%. There forever will be as well. So this is a massive game. I'm really looking forward to it, and this really is the litmus test now. This is the time to put up or shut up for the Sharkies. They've lost to the Tigers away. They lost to the Bulldogs at home. Bulldogs are no joke. That was a top 4 battle. This is now another opportunity for the Sharks. They can peg it level with that loss to the Bulldogs by defeating the Melbourne Storm this Saturday. But God damn it, the Melbourne Storm are looking really, really hot in 2025. So let's go into the team list now. And the back 7, the 1-7 for the Sharkies is unchanged. The forward pack is AFB, Brayley and Korfusi. Nikora, Burns and McInnes is the back row, and the interchange is Atkinson, Colquhoun, Talakai and Hamlin Uele, with Teague Wilton named on the reserves there for the Sharks. For the Melbourne Storm now, Pappenhausen, Fa'alongo and Coates, the back 3. Anderson and Meaney are the centres. Munster and Hughes are the halves. Uto Ikamanu, Garlic and King, that is the starting front row for the Storm. Blore, Katoa and Loiero is the back row. Wishart, McDonald, Kamikamitha and Joe Chan is the interchange. So Kamikamitha comes back after having last week off, and Harry Grant and Nelson Asofa-Solomona have been named on the reserves there for the Melbourne Storm. Again, Sharks, this is an enormous opportunity for them to really impress that, yes, you are a premiership contender. You are a top 4 team. I think if they lose this game, I think you can look at the Sharks more so as a top 6 team that still could click come finals time, but not with a lot of confidence. But if they do it here, oh boy howdy, that sets them up for a blockbuster rest of 2025. But I got to say, they haven't been overly impressive. They just got I know it says 30-14, but they were pretty poor themselves against the Manly Seagulls for a long period of that game, unfortunately. And then back at Magic Round, they only just scraped by the Parramatta Eels. They just lost to the West Tigers. I don't think they're in tremendous form, the Cronulla Sharks. I'd be very, very nervous. Melbourne Storm, they are coming into it with much better form, but for the Sharks' sake, you'd much rather take on the Storm after a victory more so than taking on the Storm after they lost at Magic Round in the manner that they did. I think this will be close. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to that. I think it'll be 1-12, but I'm really sorry, Sharks fans. The way that they played last weekend, I think it's going to bleed over into the next, and I'm going to tip the Melbourne Storm to win this game 1-12. There are 3 games on Sunday, and match number 1 is from Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos take on the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Brisbane are $1.30, $3.55 about the Dragons' chances. this could have been a much more higher profile contest than what it is going to be in any event. So Ben Hunt did his hamstring last weekend, and that means Ben Hunt will now not play the Dragons. And all the journalists, I'm sure, around Australia are pissed off about it because they don't get to talk about Ben Hunt versus the Dragons. Thank freaking goodness, though, as a neutral onlooker, as a neutral watcher, thank freaking goodness that's not the case for this week. So let's go into the team list news now. Cobbo, Mariner, and Arthur's the back three, Stags and Shibasaki. And here's the high-profile part. Ezra Mann, he's back, playing at 5'8", with Adam Reynolds in the halves pairing. Watch his Queensland Cup highlights from last weekend. Hot damn, Ezra Mann. Forward pack, Carrigan, Haas and Walters, Willison, Ricky and Hetherington. The interchange is Pakes, Jensen, Piakura and Baker. Going into the Dragons team lineup now, and 1 through to 7 is unchanged. King Togia remains at halfback, or is at halfback. The forward pack is DeBellin, Cook and Clemmer. Egan, Sewer and Stewart, the back row. In the interchange is Little, Leilua, Pacifica Tonga and Blake Laurie for the St. George Illawarra Dragons. The Dragons showed good fight in the second half against the Warriors, but I think that may have been more of a case of the Warriors taking the foot off the pedal a little bit, not taking anything away from the Dragons' second half performance. And for the Broncos, bro, oh man, I think they're really dangling, aren't they? I think they're walking the tightrope, and there are rumours of friction between Michael Maguire and the rest of the personalities, to put it carefully, at the Brisbane Broncos. But then you read that they were all just chilling on a cruise ship underneath Sydney Harbour Bridge before game day last weekend. So what is it? Are they cool or are they not cool? But in any event, there are some attitude changes. It looks like an attitude problem for the Brisbane Broncos, except for Haas, Carrigan and Adam Reynolds as well. I think those three players can absolutely keep their heads up high. Even Jesse Arthurs as well, just quietly. But I think the rest of them, maybe less so Cobbo, I think a lot of them really need to just cop it and just do what the doctor orders, i.e. Michael Maguire. So this is a very important game for Broncos, definitely. Dragons, they don't play too bad at Suncorp, but I'm going to say the Broncos win this game. 1 to 12 or 13 plus. I think I'm going to go 13 plus, Brisbane Broncos. The second game on Sunday is from GIO Stadium in Canberra. The Raiders host the Gold Coast Titans. Raiders are $1.32. The Titans are $3.44. The Raiders last weekend had an impeccable first half, but a couple of minutes before halftime, you could see the Dogs activate, and you could see the Raiders were scrambling hardcore, and they couldn't do it anymore in that second half, losing that contest when they were up by 20 points to 0. Yeah, that was embarrassing for the Raiders, but that's not Raiders, man. That's not what they've been. That's not what they're about. They would have learnt a hell of a lot about themselves in that game, but yeah, that's not Raiders. That was bizarre. That was strange, the way that they went about that second half. And then the Gold Coast Titans, I had a feeling about you sons of bitches last weekend, and I gave the benefit of the doubt to the wrong team, because what eventuated was exactly what happened. Titans beat them, the Newcastle Knights, weeks ago. They were coming down with a full strength squad. And yeah, they got them. They got them in the end, with some really good footy. And the last time these two sides met was only a month ago as well. And the Titans were up 16-0 at one point. And then the Raiders ended up beating the Titans by 13 plus in the end. Last time that these two sides met at GIO Stadium was in a Golden Point thriller last year that went down to the final seconds of Golden Point extra time. So if we get anything like what we got last year, we're in for a friggin' belter. For the Canberra Raiders, 1 to 7 is unchanged. Corey Horsburgh returns to the Raiders this weekend. He will partner Joe Tarpany and Tom Starling in the front row. Young, Hosking and Smithies start in the back row. Unfortunately, Matty Nicholson is out for 12 weeks with surgery on his ankle, I believe. So poor bugger, rest up and come back and play some finals. later on this year. And then the interchange reads Patti Sasangi, Josh Papali'i, and Atta Mariotta. For the Gold Coast Titans, they're 1-7 after last weekend. They are unchanged. For the forward pack, Fodawaker, RCG, and Sam Verrills, Haas, Fermor, and Big Tino is the back row. Big Tino, man, his past 2 weeks have been huge. The interchange, however, now is Kieran Foran is in at jersey number 14. He's back. And the rest of the interchange, Jolliffe also returns this weekend. Randall and Josiah Pahulu. And honest to God, I know there was a bit of drama with Pahulu at the start of the year, but since Pahulu has come back into first grade, he has been super impressive. He's just provided that bit of spark off of the interchange bench for the forward pack. I think he is a fantastic young talent, and he had a ripper of a contest last weekend as well against the Newcastle Knights. I'm going to tip the Canberra Raiders in this game, but this should not be a walk in the park. This Titans side are still going to be very, very dangerous for the rest of the season now that Jaden Campbell's back, and hopefully, touch wood, that he can produce no injuries or no injuries produced on him for the rest of the season. This will be a tough game. I think this will be an entertaining game. So $3.44 if you're after an upset. Maybe the Titans can strike while the confidence of the Raiders are still shaking after last weekend's loss to the Bulldogs. But I'm going to tip the Raiders team to bounce back against the Gold Coast Titans in a thriller. And the final game of round number 11 is the Tigers versus South Sydney Rabbitohs from Campbelltown Stadium. We've got the South Sydney Rabbitohs as not as favourites. It's $1.92 each way between the Tigers and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Well, there you friggin' go. For the Tigers, team list news now. There doesn't seem to be changes. Stafford Toa is still there at the centres. The forward pack, Royce Hunt is starting, Fainu, Seyfarth and Twal in the back row. The interchange, Brent Naden is in 14, Sukar, Bird and Fainu. The interchange bench, Talent De Silva in the reserves there in jersey number 19. The team for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, let's see, we've got Mitchell, Johnston and Bentley Harpe as the back three. So AJ, welcome back to first grade. Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham in the centres, Sullivan and Humphreys in at halfback. Just stopping right there, Jamie Humphreys, my goodness, for such a young fella, and an extremely talented young fella at that, boy, howdy, he made a huge difference last weekend in the kicking game for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I didn't think they missed him quite that much, Like, they really were screaming out for Humphreys to return as quickly as possible, and he made a huge difference last weekend, so credit to him, bro. Jai Arrow, Harvili and Kolomatangi is in the front row. Aitken, Duncan and Hubner in the back row. The interchange is Jai Gray, Kepi, Mawali and Liam LeBlanc. Totola and Schuster have been named on the reserves list alongside Lewis Dodd as well. Yeah, this is a tough game to tip because you do look at the Tigers. Excruciating loss last weekend, 64-0. You reckon that they're not going to come back and have the claws out this Sunday night? They will. They absolutely will. But the Rabbitohs, the way Latrell Mitchell played, the way that they played, to stick tough like that in rainy conditions, and to come back from 14-0 down at halftime, that is a season changer. That is an absolute confidence booster, injector, if you will. That's huge for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and as much Milo as the Tigers are going to get from bouncing back from a loss like that, I just think the momentum that the Rabbitohs could potentially now get if Latrell Mitchell keeps switched on and the rest of the team keeps everybody else level-headed, honest to goodness, I think the South Sydney Rabbitohs go to Campbelltown Stadium again. They got there last year and won I think. Did they? No, I think the Tigers won last year. But in any event, we're talking about this weekend. I'm going to go the South Sydney Rabbitohs to win this game 1-12. Howdy everyone, thank you very much for your continuous support. I hope you enjoyed that video and I'll see you this weekend 3 times. I'm going to be with Alegi for Women's State of Origin, game number 2. Going to be with Dan from Rugby League Outlaws for the Bulldogs versus Roosters, and I'll be with Dor from All Out Club for the game of the round, Cronulla versus Melbourne from Shark Park. Thank you very much. Enjoy the footy. Take care. Adios.